Talking about trade and businesses, well, in today's fast-paced and ever-evolving business landscape, innovation has become the linchpin of success. Businesses that fail to innovate risk being left behind, while those that embrace innovation are poised to reap the rewards of growth, competitiveness, and sustainability. Now, from startups to established corporations, innovation is no longer a nicety, but a necessity. But what does it take to cultivate a culture of innovation within an organization? How can businesses balance the need for innovation with the pressure to deliver short-term results? Joining me in the studio to explore the latest trends, strategies, and best practices in innovation and discuss how businesses can leverage innovation to stay ahead of the curve is serial entrepreneur and author, Mr. Ebuka Anichebe. Always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Good to be here, Musa. Good afternoon.
Okay, beautiful. Innovation, how important is it considering the very task environment we have for most businesses? How is it important for them to actually thrive?
Well, every business, if you don't innovate, you'll be left behind because your business is basically a determination of your customers. Your customers' needs or interests change, then you have to change with them. Interestingly, I'll give you a case in point. In the banking sector, we've seen two relatively new entrants come into the consumer market with innovation, and they've been able to capture a very large share of the company. So businesses in Nigeria should be looking at that as an example. I'm not sure if I'm free to share the names of the companies I'm speaking to, but if you hear businesses like Opay, right, they've dominated. People that before now, they would. Bike men don't have bank accounts. You can't ask your Okada rider, they have a bank account. But literally now, every market you go, every corner you go, everybody has that because by virtue of the innovation which Opay came inside and said, look, your phone number should be your account number. So something as simple as that, just being able to bring that into the market brings innovation. It would have been hard, you would have assumed that it would be one of the incumbents or the big top 5 banks that would have brought that into the market, but that's not the case. So when you talk about innovation, it's really about, you don't want to go head to head with the big banks, or for example, we're using the bank example. What you want to do is what we call decoupling. You look at your customer's value chain and you decide, if I'm a small company, what's part of this value chain? So let's use the banking examples. Opening of an account, operating of the accounts, perhaps getting an overdraft and a loan. That's all part of the value chain. And so some businesses have come in and said, look, we're not going to be operating in the loan market. We're going to just be operating in collecting deposits and making it easy for customers to use their deposits. We're not yet interested in giving out those loans. That's a part of decoupling. They've taken a part of what traditional big banks would do and said, look, we'll take care of this, right? And you go ahead and give other bigger people loans. That's decoupling. That's innovation. That's one way of looking at innovation.
Okay, is it just in the finance space?
Not necessarily in the finance space. That's just one example.
Which other sector has it impacted?
So across board, when you talk about innovation, it's also watching now. Almost many households will say, oh, they have Netflix. And if you have something like Netflix, then it may start to compete automatically with your DSTV subscription, right? And why? Because Netflix innovated. They didn't do, again, back to the value chain. They did not go and get a satellite and then get the movies to be streamed there. No, they just chose a path. Look, I expect other people to get their own internet service providers, right? But on this part, we will supply them through streaming best quality movies. Now you're seeing there's a decline in the number of subscriptions for multi-choice, and people are opting for a streaming option like Netflix. That's another innovation. Recent innovation I'll point out to you where it really counts is two companies coming together to innovate. Case in point, recently, as recent as last week, Apple announced that all iPhones this year will be equipped with Starlink, with Starlink internet. That's a beautiful example of innovation. Two companies already doing something similar, deciding to come together. It's like a woman selling granules and somebody else selling banana decides to come together to collaborate. That's how beautiful you can think about innovation. It doesn't always have to be technologically based. It can simply be a business model innovation in order to bring two things that were hitherto sold separately to bring them together so that they are sold as one.
Okay, how can we now somehow, how can businesses balance innovation with sustainability and profitability?
So that's good. There's actually a tool which we use as consultants to companies. We use a tool called the Balance Scorecard. And the Balance Scorecard requires every CEO and board to really critically look at their company. Why? Because sometimes you're blindsided just thinking of how do we ensure growth, and your growth is only based on financial considerations. But if you're only focusing on financial considerations and you're not looking at how do we improve within, case in point, sometime this week, it was announced by the Nigerian Customs Service that they were going to be applying a 4% increments of tariffs for freight FOB. Now, if you look at that, you'll think about, in 2004, Nigerian Customs gave record amount of profits. You may look at that and say, well, the business is healthy, they're incurring profits. But if you want to apply a balanced scorecard approach, it requires you looking at the financial profitability and then looking at it from a customer viewpoint. Are your customers happy? Then also looking at it from the other viewpoint of your internal processes. Are we now able to clear containers faster, using the case of customs? Are we able to clear containers faster? Are we able to, our internal processes, have they improved over the last 1 year before we are asking people to pay more? And then finally, you will have to look at how fast are we learning? How fast are we learning?
Where is the place of AI in all this whole thing? Because AI is another different ballgame.
So
Yeah,
AI comes under, so under innovation, when you look at the framework, it's in 4 parts. It's a quadrant, okay? So you have finance or one part, and then you have customer viewpoints, customer perspective on the other point, and then you have your internal processes. Under internal processes, AI falls under there. And then you also have the parts where you are constantly learning as an organization. This is outside of internal processes. The fourth part is your internal learning system. Are you a learning organization? Are you able to ensure that your staff is gradually learning to where the direction of the industry is going to, or where your own vision is for the future? Are they currently learning those skills, upskilling themselves so that they're able to meet the changing needs of the people?
Now, what role do you think should government and private sector play, most especially, I mean, in actually investing in this technology and innovation, most especially when you look at our private space, or private sector is mostly driven by small scale businesses. How do we get to accommodate other small businesses that, you know, that needs this particular advantage to somehow be competitive?
Well, I think good policy making can go a long way. I'll give you an example. Last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, the Federal Ministry of Education came out and said every school suddenly should be teaching 15 new courses. 15 new courses, right? From tiling to solar powers to it's hairdressing, it's a lot. However, now that is an advantage to everybody. Yeah. Now, if you look at those 15 lists of new courses, you realize that the schools are ill-equipped to have teachers teaching that subject. And so when we're talking about innovation, a good way to combine will be for local businesses within a 5-mile radius of every school to go to the schools and partner with the schools and bring in their own intellect. So if you're doing hair making already, you have a salon, or you're into solar, you can go there and say, look, we already have people, we can lecture your students, we can teach your students. And it's then up to the schools to screen those businesses to ensure that you're getting the right people into the classrooms for students. So policy making is driving that conversation within the education sector. If the government tomorrow decides that, look, we want to go paperless, 100% paperless, and that is a policy that we have to mandate, that we have to do by 2026, as an example. It will require an entire organization to first of all start to train their people, back to the balance scorecard, to start to train their people to be sure that they do have the internal capacity to meet that requirement that the new policy has done.
Now, when talking about innovation and technology, research and development plays a very important role. Is it the kind of research that we see in schools where people come and copy and paste, or do we need to actually go back to the real research where we conduct the research, read our books, and if possible, do those things that we need to do to actually arrive at a point where we solve a particular problem?
Oh, yes, indeed. And now research has been aided by the growth of artificial intelligence. So if you're talking about, if back then we're complaining about copy and paste because we had Google, imagine what students are doing right now with AI. They are able to submit assignments, wonderful assignments. The ones that are orators are able to take those assignments. They can cram it, come and do a wonderful presentation. You watching as a judge, judging the debates, we will assume that these people know everything. And so the way we educate our children has to change, both at home and also in the schools. A lot more practicality has to be brought into place because theory, there's no room for theory anymore, especially when their phones are smarter than the person standing in front of the classroom. And so teachers should be able to be reskilled and retooled on how to teach children that already have the advantage of having something as wonderful as artificial intelligence to do the theory parts while they do the practicals. We need to be seeing a lot more practicals. You tell children, go home and do X, Y, Z. Why? Because now suddenly they have the required tools. It's now a matter of them, you doing the how. Doing the what has been solved by AI. AI can tell them what to do. But now they have to actually apply themselves and do the how. So that's basically where the next jump off. We're gradually leaving we've left the industrial area. We're leaving the information age era. We're moving into a new age. This is the age of wisdom because now information has kind of been perfected. Everybody has the same access to the same type of information should they choose to look for it. However, it's now how do we apply the information and the knowledge that is on our fingertips.
Mr. Anichebe, this has been a very enlightening conversation, but I believe maybe we'll do a part 2 of this because I've not actually, there are a lot of questions which I would love to ask. Well, thank you very much for sharing your thought with us, Ebuka Anichebe.
Thank you.
Now, moving on, the House of Representatives has asked the Minister of Communications and the Nigerian Communications Commission to put on hold